Hi there, my name is Danny Birch, and I'm here to talk about how to teach kindergartners how to talk about and learn habitats. And those habitats can be from animals, plants, or humans. The environment we live in is ever changing, and some changes are fast, like wildfire, that can destroy habitat, and some are slower, like increasing temperatures that affect ice, like for polar bears. And to accommodate for these changes, plants and animals make changes in their habitat to meet the needs that they have to live in a particular environment. And that's all these things together that work together called a habitat. For example, you might talk to a child about a cactus and how it retains water, or polar bears and how they need ice to hunt to keep living in the specific harsh environment that they live in. Each animal and person's habitat is designed to fit their specific world. Application looks like asking a child about their favorite plant or animal and looking into that habitat of that chosen animal. My nieces really love their cat, and their house cat's habitat looks really different from like a cougar or a lion, and we might discuss what those habitats are for each of the animals and what they need to live in those habitats. I would ask them to look at different habitats and how they'll turn that discussion towards humans, and ask the child what their own day-to-day habitat looks like and how they share those traits with both plants and animals. I would ask them an introductory question similar to what is another word for habitat. Habitat can be a big word for kindergartners. We would like to use the word ecosystem, which I think is an even bigger word. A lot of us, I think, are comfortable using the word home or where we live. And I think I would then ask them the key components to a habitat. And those things are like food, water, shelter is a big one, a safe place to have their babies. Somewhere to sleep is different to me than shelter. And how does their habitat change throughout the seasons? And an animal you can bring up for that example would be like a bear it lives more outside in the open air in the forest to eat nuts and berries through the spring and summer, and through the fall and winter transitions into a cave or a den. Or salmon, where salmon live part of their lives in fresh water and salmon live part of their lives in the ocean. And the salmon might be a big concept, but some kids would get it. I would then ask a small group discussion by breaking the kiddos into small groups and and giving them an animal to talk about or a place to talk about. So like an image of a pond, and asking the kids what animals live in a pond. What do they need to live in a pond? And so if we chose a frog or a turtle, it might be things like insects and water and mud. Uh, all these things for an animal to live safely and happy in their habitat. And I would like to introduce a concept with each animal of how can we reduce harm or further protect that habitat. So for me, an example would be if I'm at a national park, I might throw my trash away appropriately so it doesn't harm the bear. It's not good for bears to eat trash, it's not part of their natural habitat, and gently explain that. And then I would bring the group back together and talk about how habitats are essential for all creatures. And again, what can we do to help animals live in their habitat safely and comfortably? And ask the group kind of what was their ideas, like about reducing plastic near the ocean, or not dumping their trash in places that are inappropriate. Um, some of the language arts aspect, the books that I would want to read to them, I don't have with me today. One is called Over the River by Marion Burks, and it's about all the rivers in the United States and in the animals that live in each of those rivers who make it their habitat. And I would ask the kids, and we would have a discussion on what rivers in the south versus rivers in the north have different animals. What animals live in both rivers in the north and south, and we would talk about the differences that we would find. And I'd throw it back at the kids. I would ask them what animal would you want to be in what river and why? And we would talk about creating our own habitat as if we were an animal. Another one I really like is called Where Do Animals Live by Rocio Bonilla. And this one I think addresses more kind of mammalian, your typical warm and fuzzy forest creatures I think kids kind of latch on to early in life. And after reading, we would of course have a discussion again about the different habitats and what we learned and where would we want to live versus not live and what was surprising. I honestly think a lot of children after reading about rabbits would find it very surprising that they live underground, that they live in holes, that they don't live in cages. It's kind of like how we think that kids think that they don't know where food comes from. I think they would be surprised to see where animals really truly live in nature. And I would also integrate it with an art project where we could either take the kids outside and make habitats out of sticks and mud or anything that we can find and trying to suppose if we were an animal, if we were a beaver, or if we were a duck, what kind of habitat would we want to live in? And the child can recreate that animal's habitat. One that I really like because it involves a lot of sharing and ties it back into the human aspect is asking kids to draw their habitat. And I went ahead and I drew mine here. And this is just an outside of my house. And I would show the kids that in my habitat I have 2 cars that get me to and from work, that take me to the store to buy food, that take me to the hospital if I need it. I have my animals, my 2 dogs here, that are very much, they bring me joy, they're part of my habitat. And then my garden up front here in front of our house is for food, it's for shade, and explain that this is what makes my habitat. And I would have the kids all create their own, and that they would then be able to talk about the differences they find, and that there really is no right or wrong answer about their habitat, but it's more about how they view their habitat. And it'd be a great opportunity to take this home to talk to their parents about. And I would love to see a hands-on activity with habitats. Something like a classroom pet I think would be a lot of fun. But that goes back to my point. It would be easy to get a rabbit, to make a cage for the rabbit, which may or may not be its habitat. But I think that's something that children can really hold on to and see in both kind of the wild and in home is like a fish, and it's simple to take care of, and it's something that kids can take turns taking care of. And so we would have a fishbowl, rocks, plants, and when every piece that we add to the fishbowl, we would talk about how that's an essential part of the fish's habitat. What does the water do? What do the rocks do? How do the plants provide them shelter or nutrients? And then we would take turns taking care of the animal throughout the year. It's something the kids can report on. It'd be something exciting that would go into the school newspaper or classroom letter. And I think that would be a great way to kind of assess kids too, is how they're understanding this animal's habitat and how to take care of this animal. Mostly all the assessment would be done through discussion and checklist by discussing with kids what a habitat is and what they should know, and asking them the questions that they should know. And what they don't know or are missing on the checklist, I would help them understand that material. And I would try to reinforce subject matter. Each student then, at the end of this whole learning lesson, would pick an animal, would pick a habitat that's appropriate, that is linked with the animal, and they would give kind of a brief presentation in front of the class, which I think also builds public speaking skills. And they can then post their habitats and post their own personal home habitat on the wall if they'd like, and they'd all talk about it. They can post their habitat on what they presented on with the animals on the wall and talk about it, and really foster an open classroom discussion. Otherwise, I think that habitat checklist can get pretty monotonous, but I do think that the kids have it in them to be able to learn a habitat, learn what's essential about a habitat, and how those habitats change over time, and how we can, as humans, protect an animal's habitat and protect ours, and that we need habitats just as much as animals, and that we can all work together in a cohesive ecosystem. Thank you.